Okay, I'm live. I managed. Now, right, this last part, it won't take us time. Let's go, everybody. Let's say 23 May, okay? 23 May 2026. Okay? And of course, we are doing IGCSE biology. And of course, we are doing chapter 19. And we are doing part 3, okay? What we are doing now is the part 3. And we'll be done. I'm just going to do it in no time at all, so it shouldn't take us any time. It's just 2 cycles, guys. We are done with to be honest, we are done with the hard part. It's just we're going to do 2 cycles, and I'll tell you what population is and how to write important things, and then you'll be done. So don't worry about it. It's not even going to take you time. So of course, if you're writing this, you say organisms and their environment. That's the one we're doing. Organisms and their environment. Right, let's go. I'm proud of you. You're doing very well. Let's do this. Chapter 19. We start. Are you ready? All right. So write in brackets to say day 3. Write in brackets to say day 3. Right. First thing, the carbon cycle. The carbon cycle. The carbon cycle. Right with me. So, remember I told you last time that we were starting, when we're doing energy loss, we're seeing how only 10% of energy moves from one level, the one tropic level to the next in your food chain. And we're seeing that a lot of the energy is lost. Now, when we are talking about these cycles, we are talking about how they are not lost. Nutrients are not lost. Nutrients are recycled. So carbon is a nutrient, and we're going to see how it is recycled. So the carbon cycle is about carbon being recycled. It will be just changing. We are just proving to you that carbon will never be lost. It will be just changing from one form to another to another. It will be carbon in the atmosphere. Then it can be carbohydrates in plants. Then you can find it inside things that we call decomposers and all these things, but it's never lost. The carbon is just moving from one part to another into the soil or wherever, but it's never lost. Okay? We'll see it in fossil fuels, we'll see it in animals, we'll see it in plants, we'll see it in decomposers, and we'll see how it moves between those things. That is what you must know. Once you know that, then you're done. Okay? Are you ready? All right, let's start. So, I want you to write here to say, the carbon cycle. Okay? We're proving that carbon just moves between different things, but it's not going to be lost. It's a nutrient and it's not going to be lost. I don't like the pen right now. Let me see. The carbon cycle is simply the movement. Let's be fast. Is simply the movement of carbon. When we say we're doing the carbon cycle, we're seeing how the carbon moves between different living things. So the movement of carbon through living things. Through living things and the environment. Carbon moves through living things and the environment. You find it in plants as carbohydrates, in animals as carbohydrates. You find it in decomposers. You find it in fossil fuels. It's moving around. It's not going to be lost. So that's what we mean by the carbon cycle. We'll put a diagram, of course. I want you to write to say, carbon moves between the atmosphere. Carbon moves between the atmosphere. Okay, let me say carbon moves between 1, the atmosphere, 2, plants, 3, animals. Okay, that's how carbon moves. This is where it's going to be found in the atmosphere, in plants, in animals, in decomposers. This is carbon. This is where it will be moving from. And we want to see these things when you put your carbon cycle. Then also fossil fuels. So you must show how carbon is going to be moving from carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, then it gets into plants, then it moves to animals, then it goes to decomposers and fossil fuels. Are we together? It moves between this and back again. Right to say, and back again. Okay? So I want to give you a simple version of a nitrogen cycle. I feel like it helps, which we do at checkpoint level. Checkpoint is Cambridge Form 2, okay? We do this at checkpoint with the checkpoint students. And then I'm going to tell you the one, and I'm going to edit. We edit it and put more for you guys. But it's a very nice one. I like it. The one we did at checkpoint level. Look at how we do it. We do it like this. We show that this is the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We are putting all the places where you're going to find the carbon. Okay, it is going to be carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide in carbon dioxide in the air. Carbon dioxide in the air. Then you're going to have carbohydrates in plants. Let me reduce the size. Carbohydrates in plants. Okay? This is where you find carbon. This is carbon moving between these different things. Okay? Then you're going to find it in animals. The same thing as well. So I want you to put as well carbohydrates in animals. We know that we talked about those 5 places where you're going to be finding carbon. And it's moving between those 5 places. It will never get lost. Carbon is not getting lost, students. Carbon is just going through this cycle. It comes from this to this to this to this, then back again. Don't forget that. So the carbon you are seeing now was always there. It was always there. Yes, it was always there. What? Really? Yep. Woo. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates in animals. And then I want you to say in fossil fuels. Are you seeing? Then I want you to write one last one. Carbohydrates in decomposers. Right. So now let's put what causes these movements. Okay? Everybody knows this. This is just a diagram. Unfortunately, it took us a bit of time to draw it. But we know that carbon is in these 5 things. Do you know that? Guys, do you know that we have carbon as carbon dioxide in the air? Kalalelu, are you aware of that? We said it, right? In here. We say that you find it in the atmosphere as carbon dioxide, right? Okay, as CO2. We said you find it in plants as carbohydrates. That's the form you find carbon. Carbohydrates have carbon. You find it in animals as carbohydrates. That's carbon there. Okay? You find it in decomposers as carbs as well. That's carbon there. You find it in fossil fuels as carbon. Are we together, students? So all we want to see is, how does that happen? We have these five, we know how to do it. Carbon dioxide in the air or atmosphere, it's the same thing. Okay? Don't forget, we have carbon in the air. We have it in the air. Then we have it in plants. Then we have it in animals. Then we have it in fossil fuels. And then we have it in decomposers. Now, it starts in the air. It starts in the atmosphere. Now, from there, it goes into plants through photosynthesis. Photosynthesis needs carbon dioxide. So there we go. That's the first way. And then once it's in plants, animals like human beings feed on plants and they get the carbohydrates. So feeding. Carbon now moves to animals. When you eat plants, you're getting the carbohydrates from rice, from potatoes, from this. They're going into the animals. Even when we have impalas and whatever, when they are grazing, eating grass, carbon is moving like that. So this is a process called feeding. Now, when it's like that, it also goes from plants to fossil fuels. How? Dead plants, we know that when plants get dead and they say many years, they start rotting underground and whatever, and they turn to fossil fuels. But this is very slow. You should write to say, this is going to be very slow formation. So I want to see that. Students, I want to see, we know that it comes from the atmosphere to plants first. Then from plants now it starts to go everywhere. It goes to fossil fuels, it goes to animals, and to fossil fuels, it goes to animals, then it goes to decomposers. Decomposers, yes. Decomposers, yeah. Once the plants die and the animals die, decomposers will come and feed on dead plant and animal matter. Decomposers. So this is also feeding. Just like animals had to eat the plants to get the carbohydrates. This is also what happens. So now it has moved. Can you see that? Can you see that, students? Students? Can you see that? Yes. It has gone to everything now. Then I just want you to know, carbon starts going back. We said it should do the cycle back. It starts going back. Let me change the crayon. It starts going back via a process called respiration. Respiration, everything needs energy. Plants need energy, so they do respiration, where the carbon is converted to energy for them to do everything. Animals do respiration. Decomposers do respiration. This is respiration. Okay? Are you seeing? Everything does respiration. I want to see that. This is how it's now going back to the atmosphere. Okay? This is now how it's going back. You know, by the way, those who didn't know, when we are talking about decomposers, we are not saying it's a plant. Okay? When we're talking about decomposers, we're talking about these animals. We're talking about earthworms. We're talking about, flies. We're talking about beetles. We're talking about, think of another decomposer, you may think of it. Even ants can work as decomposers. Things that eat dead things. You can find them. So a lot of worms that you find a lot of beetles, a lot of flies, a lot of these things. When something is dead, those are called decomposers. Okay? Are we together? You can also talk, when you keep going deeper, you talk about other decomposers. But these decomposers, they all do one thing. They all do respiration. So do animals do respiration? Yes. What does respiration produce? it produces carbon dioxide. Where does it go? Back to the atmosphere. What do we have in decomposers? They produce carbon dioxide. Where does it go? Back to the atmosphere. What do plants produce? Through respiration, carbon dioxide. Where does it go? Back to the atmosphere. But fossil fuels, for us to have fossil fuels like coal and whatever, they don't do respiration. These are fuels, but through combustion now, when you burn them, once you burn fossil fuels, it's good. They're all going to produce carbon dioxide, which goes back to the atmosphere. Are we together? Are you seeing this? This is easy, right? Yes, it's not even hard. Right, so I want everybody to know this. So this is just a general overview. Now you can just write about it and you're done. So this is just a general overview of your carbon cycle and you're done. So don't ever make it complicated. There's nothing complicated here. So now you can say here, let's write underneath now. We started in the atmosphere. First put the places where you find carbon. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Carbohydrates in plants. Carbohydrates in animals. Carbohydrates in decomposers. Then carbon in fossil fuels. Then now you start connecting. It starts in the atmosphere. It goes to plants via photosynthesis. This is the beginning of everything. Photosynthesis requires carbon dioxide. So it's taking it from the atmosphere into the plant. That carbon, okay, when it gets into the plant, it's no longer carbon dioxide. It's now carbohydrates, glucose. Right? And then we know it's converted to starch for storage. You eat that starch, you get the carbon into you as carbohydrates. Starch is a carbohydrate. When it goes into you, it's converted to glucose, gets into the blood, then converted to glycogen, stored. But it's still carbohydrate. That's still carbohydrate in you. Then you start doing respiration. You need those things. So you get the glucose. Okay, it converts back to glucose for respiration and goes to every single cell. Every cell in you is doing respiration. To respire is not to breathe. People say respiration is breathing. That's wrong. Breathing is ventilation. That's breathing. Respiration has absolutely nothing to do with breathing. The only thing it does is it needs oxygen, which you get from breathing. But it's not breathing. It is definitely not breathing. It is when the oxygen gets to the cell, not breathing. It's not in the lungs. Although also the lungs do that as well, but not inside, just the outside of it. You have cells inside your lungs also needing oxygen to keep pumping, you know. You have to keep getting in edge, the diaphragm, relaxing, contracting. Yes. This is biology. I mean, it's the nitrogen cycle. But are we together, everybody? Besides that, are we all together? Students, are we all together? Okay, good. Good. So what I was saying, we keep going. Now let's write it as notes. The things that I want you to know. And once you know, the things that I want you to know, and then we go on from there. I want you to write to say, carbon, let's go first. Carbon is recycled. It does not disappear. We know that's all it is about. That's all they want us to know here. To say carbon does not disappear. So even nitrogen, that's why we talk about their cycles. Ooh, I'm sorry for that. Wait. I'm sorry, give me a second. Okay. Right. We said carbon it does not disappear. Okay. Right. So I want you to say the same carbon is the one you are getting. The carbon you eat in rice, it was always there. Do you hear me? The same carbon atoms keep moving around again and again. Please, okay, tell people who don't know this to say, hey, the carbon you are eating today was always there. Ah, it was always there? Yes. It's just cycling. It went into the atmosphere, then the plant took it during photosynthesis, and now you are eating it. But it was always there. The carbon which is in this rice, it was always there, just going through cycles. So I want you to write, this is why it is called a cycle. This is why it is called a cycle. Okay? Okay? Now write, the carbon cycle begins with carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Begins with carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Okay? Are we together? Now, you're going to say, plants remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. We've already written it, but now we're just writing it as notes. We've already shown you on the diagram. From the atmosphere is photosynthesis. Okay? Which is, you're right, carbon dioxide plus water. We need this process which happens in plants. It's a very important one. Okay? Okay. In the presence of light, UV light, to give us what? Glucose, which is now the carbohydrate, plus oxygen. So now, there we go. The carbon has been converted. The carbon has been converted. Are we together now? So, yes, the carbon dioxide is converted to glucose, which is a carbohydrate. In plants. Are we together? Okay. Now, we'll go to the next step. Now, talk about animals. Animals eat plants. Animals eat plants. The carbohydrates okay, or you can say the carbon moves into the animals is carbohydrates again. Are we together? So you can see the reason why you did this chapter is carbon, just like energy, is the energy. It moves through feeding relationships. It moves through feeding relationships. We know that for the same carbon to go to decomposers, it is through feeding again. Are we together? It is through feeding again. Okay? Right. Now, right here to say, if animals and plants die, are you ready? We are talking about how it now goes to decomposes. How it goes to decomposes. If plants and animals die, the carbon compounds in them, we know that both of them had carbohydrates. The carbon compounds in them are broken down or decomposed, okay? Are broken down by decomposers. And I want you, when you say decomposers, I want you to say bacteria and fungi and others, etc. These break down dead organisms, right? Because plants do die. Animals do die. Right, guys? Now you can say decomposers feed on this dead plants and animals. Feeds on the dead plants and animals. And absorb the carbon compounds. Or you can say absorb the carbohydrates, okay? Are we together, students? Everybody? For decomposers, we're together? Now, right here now, if the animals and plants, die in conditions like underground or places without oxygen, in conditions where decomposers are not present, or not enough to decompose them completely. What then happens? Okay? And I'll give you places where such can happen. Put this underground or under pressure or without oxygen. Are we together? if plants or animals die in such conditions, then they become fossil fuels. And it says over millions of years, then they will become fossil fuels. Over millions of years. Have you seen the explanations? So now we've told you how it comes everywhere. We said there's carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Okay? Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Then we say the plants remove it via photosynthesis, and we gave you the word equation for photosynthesis. And then we showed to you that animals now come and eat the carbohydrates are passed, or the carbon is passed on to animals by feeding. Animals now come and eat the plants. And then we said now, also, when we have the animals and the plants die, then what we have will be decomposers coming to feed on them. And that is what we did here. To say, going to decomposers, that's feeding. Going to decomposers again here, that is feeding. Okay? Plants and animals being fed on by decomposers. Now, how do we then have this one where it goes to fossil fuels in a very slow formation process over millions of years? We said if you have conditions where decomposers cannot perform at their best, then you're going to have this dead plant and animal matter converting to fossil fuels. Are we together? Are we together, students? Yes, so in case you get a question on it. Now, let's see here. Okay? Let's write here now to say carbon is returned to the atmosphere. We are now talking about respiration. Carbon, you just have to mention it. You don't have to say too much. This is a simple thing, guys. You don't have to say too much. Carbon is returned to the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. By what? By plants, animals, and microorganisms or decomposers. Okay, we didn't put all of them. Decomposers. As a result of respiration, or by respiration. Are we together? Yes. So carbon is returned to the atmosphere as carbon dioxide by respiration from plants, respiration in animals, respiration in decomposers. We don't have a problem there. No, we don't have a problem. What about fossil fuels? We saw how carbon has gotten to fossil fuels. The plants and the animals are dead. The decomposers don't feed on them. Okay, they don't completely decompose. They remain there for millions of years. They will turn into fossil fuels. Okay, decomposers eat. So if you have decomposed, it means you have been eaten up. This animal is no longer there because these things ate it. But if this animal that's dead is not eaten up, if it remains in its space for years and years and years, then it will start converting into a fossil fuel. Okay? Because this dead plant or this dead animal has carbon. And fossil fuels have carbon. We talked about it in organic chem. So where do they get the carbon? They get the carbon in dead plants and animals that are not decomposed, that have not been fed on by these decomposers. Are we together, students? Students, are we together? Okay. Now, humans, how do they come and impact this? How do humans now impact this carbon cycle? Humans burn fossil fuels. Humans burn fossil fuels. This is how humans have a hand in this. Are we together? This is called combustion. This is called combustion. Now you can just write, during combustion, the carbon in fossil fuels combines with oxygen to form carbon dioxide, which goes back into the atmosphere. Okay. So it's just how you should know humans impact the carbon cycle. Are we together? Okay. Right. Now, when they ask you about human impact, this is the last thing, then we go to the second cycle. When they ask you about the human impact on this carbon cycle, don't forget two things. One, burning fossil fuels. Okay? Human impact on carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, on CO2 in atmosphere. They're affecting the carbon cycle by increasing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Okay? That's a big thing. Humans are contributing to an increase in the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. How? By using fossil fuels. They're burning them. Cars, aeroplanes, fires, all these things. Okay? We said it's burning, by burning fossil fuels. By burning fossil fuels. This is the human impact. By burning fossil fuels, what happens? Humans increase the amount or the carbon dioxide content of the atmosphere, by burning or by increased use of fossil fuels. Okay? Put in brackets. More combustion is equal to more CO2. Okay? Are we together? Now, the second way humans are impacting the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is, can you tell me, students, what is the one way that carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is brought into this carbon cycle? Like carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, what is the one way that it moves in the carbon cycle? What is the one thing that can take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and move it on? It's plants. How do they do it? By photosynthesis, right? Plants are the only thing in the whole carbon cycle that can get carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Is it true? Is it true, students? Hello? Talk to me. Letty, is it true? Yes, photosynthesis is the only way. Now, you know what humans do, Letty? They are already burning fossil fuels. Coal. We are doing it to have electricity. We are burning coal right now to have electricity. We are burning all the fossil fuels that come from crude oil in cars, in airplanes, and what? And you know what it's doing? It's increasing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere every day. Every single day. And you know what we then do? We then come and we do deforestation. So to make matters worse, the humans come and they start cutting down trees. But trees are the only hope. Trees are the only way of removing that carbon dioxide you are adding. Come on. Now you are removing. Oh my days. So that means the trees, there will be less trees. There will be fewer plants. When you are burning the forests to make land for farming and stuff, or to make land for putting your houses, to put houses, farming is even better, to put your houses and stuff, burning forests, deforestation, to put your nice places for drifting or roads and stuff, you are reducing the amount of plants. And now you have fewer plants remaining, and you are actually releasing more carbon dioxide. So this is a double problem. So remember to write this double problem. What is the double problem? The carbon dioxide should already be removed, right? But we are actually increasing it. There is already carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which should be removed. This carbon dioxide is put by us breathing and all these other, respiration. Respiration is happening everywhere, in animals, in plants, and everything. And they are releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And there mustn't be too much carbon dioxide because it causes global warming, which affects the seasons and the rainfall, and you start having flooding, you start having all these hazards, environmental hazards. So guess what? We don't need too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, as if that's not enough, humans come and they start using cars and all these things, burning fossil fuels every single day, increasing the amount of carbon dioxide which is in the atmosphere. Now, at least increase, but allow the plants to fight it. Then humans come again and they start cutting down trees. So they're causing a double problem. They are burning fossil fuels, which is releasing more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which we don't want. We don't want it there. Then they come and cut down the trees and plants, and they burn the plants in deforestation, which was the only other way of removing it. So that's a double problem. Making matters worse. That's the human impact. Burning fossil fuels and deforestation. Those two are double problem. So when you write deforestation, you are going to write as a background to say trees and plants remove CO2, carbon dioxide, in the atmosphere, via photosynthesis. When forests are burned or burnt, or trees cut down, when you cut down trees or when you burn forests, fewer plants and trees, okay, remain. Fewer plants or trees remain. And also, extra carbon dioxide is released whilst burning. Is released whilst you are busy burning that tree or that forest. Whilst burning the plants. So you are busy burning the plants when you are burning the forest. While burning the forest. When you are burning the forest, you are releasing more carbon dioxide in the air and you are leaving fewer plants. So now there is also less carbon dioxide removal due to less plants. For photosynthesis. So this should not happen. Now we have more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and that's a double problem. Okay? So I want you to say double problem. Why is it a double? We have more CO2 in atmosphere. Are we together? Okay. Anyone? Anyone with a question? Right, now we go to nitrogen cycle. Say part 2. And say the nitrogen cycle. Let's say the nitrogen cycle, which is the second cycle we need to know. Okay? Many students feared, okay? But it's not even a problem. Okay? Everybody, are we together? Right. Let's put the places where you find it. This nitrogen. you're going to have atmospheric nitrogen. Everybody agrees with me that there's a lot of nitrogen in the atmosphere, right? Let me help you. Can you please write to say atmospheric nitrogen, please? Right, to say nitrogen in the atmosphere. And then I'm going to help you note that. Clean, dry air has so much nitrogen. We have so much nitrogen in the atmosphere right now. Clean, dry air has about 78% of nitrogen. Then it is about 21% of oxygen. Then the other 1%, whatever, you can start with the other gases and carbon dioxide plus the carbon dioxide, CO2 plus noble gases. They make the last percent. Are we together? But 78% of the air, of clean, dry air, is nitrogen. Nitrogen. So we don't have a problem with finding it. There is so much in the atmosphere. The problem we have is not the presence of nitrogen or where to get it. No. The big problem that we have is that plants cannot absorb nitrogen gas directly. So we can't have photosynthesis like we were having of nitrogen. No! And guess what? Animals also cannot use it. So plants can't use it. Animals can't use it. So it's stuck. And you know why? It's because nitrogen is a very, very stable gas. You can't break its bond so that you use it. It exists like this. Triple bond with a triple bond. Nitrogen bonded, a triple bond. What a strong bond to another nitrogen. So this is how you find it in the atmosphere. They'll be floating around as N2s, floating around. And these ones, you can't use them. You can't. Animals can't use them. Plants can't use them. Their bond is too strong. So before this nitrogen can be used by plants and animals, both of them need it. Both of them need it. It's needed as proteins in animals. It's needed in plants as well for the growth. It's one of the nutrients that plants need. Okay? You need nitrates. Plants need nitrates. Or plants need nitrogen and they get it as nitrates. Okay? Plants need nitrogen. For you to have a good, healthy, strong plant that grows, you need nitrogen. Are we together? Are we together? But it must be, this nitrogen is not from the atmosphere. So we have it in the atmosphere. But what we all know, you and I, is that this atmospheric version is not useful to us. It's not in a usable form. It must be first converted into a usable form. And this is the whole cycle. That's the most important idea of this nitrogen cycle. Okay? Are we together? So we're going to see how do we have this atmospheric nitrogen, how do we have it being converted into usable forms, into usable forms. And then once it's in usable forms, you're now going to have it being used up, right? And this is what you'll be calling fixation, nitrogen fixation. It is how nitrogen is converted into usable forms. It's the very first important or major process in the nitrogen cycle. Are we together, guys? Everybody? Hello? Okay, thank you. Now let's go for it. I want you to write, to say, here, the nitrogen is going to go straight to, they say, ammonium compounds. Okay? I want you to write here to say ammonium. Where's the pen? I want this pen in blue. And you can say here, the nitrogen will be converted into ammonium compounds. Are we together? And then you can have it converted to nitrates in the soil. This is in the soil, by the way. This one. All this is happening in the soil. This is now nitrates. Once it's just nitrates, then everything can now use it. Everything can now use it. Because guess what happens? The nitrates are used by plants. So that's how the nitrogen will go to plants. And they will become proteins in the plants. So plant proteins. Okay. Proteins need nitrogen. We all know that. Proteins are made by amino acids which have nitrogen. Then through feeding, it now goes to proteins in animals. And this is your carbon cycle. Are you seeing? As animal proteins, what happens? Let me write now. It will now go from animals back here, okay? And you're going to have this process continue. It goes like this. Back here through bacteria and fungi, and also here, back to ammonia. So now we're going to write these processes, and this cycle will be repeating. By the way, you can also have it come from nitrates to go straight back to atmospheric nitrogen. So that's why it's a cycle. Everything can go back again like this. Are we together? Can you see this? Are we together, everybody? Okay, I have a knock. Give me a second. Give me 1 second, and then I'll give you the names of each of these stages. We write 2 or 3 or 4 lines of notes, and you'll be done with the cycle. Give me a second. Okay, so let's continue. Right. Um, can you all still hear me? Let's just put the processes and then we'll be done just now. Let's get it done real quick as we can. Right. So there are things that I want you to just quickly write that you must absolutely know is how nitrogen in the atmosphere is converted to a form that we can use. This process is called nitrogen fixation. And what helps in this? Nitrogen fixation. And it's converted into a form that we can use in the soil. In the soil, it's not going to be in the atmosphere anymore. Okay? Although there's something that can help us as well. Something that can help us. This nitrogen fixation, why it goes into the atmosphere is the thing that does it is nitrogen fixing bacteria. I want you to write to say free soil or free living soil bacteria, which you're going to learn about it also as nitrogen fixing bacteria. Nitrogen fixation is just nitrogen being converted into a usable form. Are we together, students? Then, yes. Then this one is what converts it into ammonia is the animal proteins are going to be there when they die, when the animals and plants, when they die, then you're going to have them decompose. And that is when you're going to have bacteria and fungi converting into this form. So I'm going to write it better and come and add to you, but I want you to know some of these processes. They are very important. Of course, this is feeding, which happens here. This now where we have nitrates going back to nitrogen is denitrification. Denitrification. You now have your nitrates going back into this atmospheric nitrogen, which is not usable. Which is not usable because the bond is too strong. Right? This is this stage. This is the nitrification. This is the nitrification. There is nitrogen fixation, then there is nitrification. Nitrogen fixation is converted to ammonium compounds, or sometimes you see them say ammonia. It doesn't matter. Ammonium compounds, they have NH4. Ammonia is NH3, so it's similar things. Then you have nitrification where it is converted to nitrates. Nitrates, NO3. That's a nitrate. Now there's oxygen there. That's nitrification. Then you are going to have denitrification where it's converted back to atmospheric thing. Are we all together? And by the way, nitrates, we know that they are taken up by plants. Plants through eating, yeah? They uptake. So this is, you can say, I don't know, uptake, but it's like feeding in a way. Uptake by plants, it's like feeding. This is what happens, and you can have the rest move on. But we know that this is decomposition. Yeah? This is decomposition, what is going on here. Decomposition. And also here, this is decomposition. When this happens, the plants and animals are dead. They are dead. That's how you have it going back to ammonium compounds from proteins in them. They don't just live through a process like respiration. No. What are you talking about? That doesn't happen, man. Are you ready now to write some things? Are you ready? All right. So let's give background. Right. Let's write now some sentences that are important, that we need. So, both animals and plants need proteins. Nitrogen is required to make proteins. Nitrogen is required to make proteins. Are you seeing this? Nitrogen is required to make the proteins. Now, write this. Plants, neither plants nor animals can absorb or use nitrogen directly or nitrogen gas directly. Okay? Or atmospheric nitrogen directly. Okay? Right here, atmospheric nitrogen or nitrogen gas is, put in brackets to say or nitrogen gas, is very stable. Is very stable. So it cannot be used. Okay? It is very stable. Because you have a very, very strong bond, but we're not going to talk too much about bond. So you're going to write atmospheric nitrogen must first be converted into usable forms. Are we together? All right. The two ways of this happening okay, so the two ways of nitrogen fixation. The two ways of nitrogen fixation, in brackets I want you to say converting. Nitrogen fixation means converting nitrogen gas into usable nitrogen compounds or forms. Usable nitrogen compounds. Say R. Let's see the two ways of nitrogen fixation. One, nitrogen fixing bacteria. Right? Nitrogen fixing bacteria. On the diagram, I labeled it otherwise. On the diagram, I said soil bacteria, which is free living. Are we together? Now, what happens? What does this nitrogen fixing bacteria do? Right, to say these bacteria convert nitrogen gas into ammonium compounds. Okay?
And where are they found? They are found either free living in the soil, or well, it just means freely in the soil. You can just say freely in the soil. Living, you can say either living freely in the soil or in the roots, or you can say root nodu, which is just roots of legumes. Of legumes. Do you guys know legumes? Guys, do you know legumes? Crops that we call legumes. Beans, peas, you know green peas, right? You have soya beans, all these different types of beans. Yes, they'll be part of your list of legume crops. You can go and check more of your legume crops. You find a lot more. You look for them around on the internet, but you see the things that I've just talked about. Right. So when you go into them, to their root nodules, then you're going to find this type of bacteria, which will do this job for us. Are we together? Where does it take this nitrogen? It takes it in the atmosphere. Where does it put it? Into the soil. As what? As an ammonium compound. Through a process called what? Nitrogen fixation. Okay? In the roots. In the roots. So they help the plant. It's like they help each other with the plant, these bacteria. What you're going to find is you're going to see that the bacteria will be giving the plants this usable nitrogen, because they give the plants. Okay, they give the plants. How do they give the plants? They don't give us a usable form. We don't go to the soil to look for proteins. Where do we get our proteins? We don't go to the soil to look for proteins. We look for proteins in plants or in other animals. But those other animals would have looked for proteins in plants. So what happens is, you learn about it, but you don't need to know it about at IG. You learn about it. Those who are going to keep studying bio, you learn about this other process in bio, which is called mutualism, which is when these bacteria are helping plants. Okay, they are continuously giving plants a version of nitrogen that plants can use. So these bacteria take nitrogen in the atmosphere and they convert it into something plants can use. Although it's a two-step process, they convert it into ammonium compounds. That ammonium compounds will meet what we call nitrifying bacteria, which then converts it to nitrates in a process called nitrification. Now nitrates are being produced, nitrates are being produced, nitrates are being produced, nitrates are being produced. Plants start using those nitrates. Then we can eat the plants up and get proteins. Are we together? You learn more about proteins in plants when you do balanced diet, okay? When you do digestion, the first thing you must know is the 7 nutrient molecules that are needed. Then you learn where to get those 7. Each of the 7. We'll talk more about it. Now, another way that this atmospheric nitrogen, so everybody in here so far has heard that nitrogen, the atmosphere is full of it. But this atmospheric nitrogen is very stable and it is not usable. It has to be converted to a usable form. How? Number 1, by nitrogen fixing bacteria, okay? And nitrifying bacteria working together. Then you are going to have the second, which is lightning. Lightning can also help fix this issue. Are we together? It can also help fix this issue. What it does is, it will split that bond. It provides enough energy. So lightning has a lot of energy. Okay? Lightning provides enough energy. The reason why the atmospheric nitrogen is not usable is the bond is too strong. So lightning can break it. Lightning provides enough energy. Let me now write fast. To split, write with me, to split the bond, the nitrogen bond, or the bond between the two, the bond between the two N atoms. Are we together? Turning them into, it's no longer a nitrogen molecule N2, but it turns them into nitrogen oxides. Right, to say nitrogen oxides. Which ones? N2O and NO2. Rain, okay, these nitrogen oxides dissolve into rain and leach into the soil, or rainwater carries them, these oxides that have dissolved, into the soil. Are we together? And I want you to know that lightning, we cannot use lightning as to depend on it. The main focus in exam is bacteria. We can't wait for lightning. We can't wait for it. Are we together? Hello, students? Yes. All right. Now let's move. Right. So the main focus is bacteria. Yes. Yeah, no problem. I'll do that. Yes. Right, to say in exams, bacteria are the main focus. But you must just know about nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation. Now we move on. You now know nitrogen fixation. Let's just move on and finish this off. Okay? I'm going to write faster. After nitrogen fixation, nitrogen becomes ammonium compounds in the soil. Okay? Now, thank you, nitrogen fixing bacteria. We are going to another problem, which will need another type of bacteria. Plants do not absorb ammonium compound. What they want is the nitrogen in these things. But right now the nitrogen is in ammonium compounds. It was in nitrogen gas in the air. Then nitrogen fixing bacteria converted it to ammonium compounds. Make no mistake about that. Now, as it's ammonium compounds in the soil, still the plants can't use it. So we need help again, which is here. Nitrification. Ammonium compounds, let me remove ammonia. Ammonium compounds, my friend, plants still can't get nitrogen from you efficiently. So we now need another type of bacteria, okay? Nitrogen or nitrifying bacteria. We need what we call nitrifying bacteria. This is not nitrogen fixing. Don't let me down. This is not nitrogen fixing. We are not converting nitrogen here to use before. We are converting ammonium compounds into nitrates. In other words, it was like an NH4. Now we are changing it to an NO3. But the key thing is the N. We are just changing who it is with. And it's bacteria that does that. Wow. So this ecosystem is so important. Yes, it is. You can't just be changing things and removing things. You find yourself in trouble because you need nitrogen, huh? You need nitrogen for the proteins. You need it. You need nitrogen. You need proteins. And this is important because all your enzymes, all your things are proteins. So don't think you can do without them. Hormones are proteins. You need the proteins. So my friend, protein is very important for you. It's very important for you. Replacing dead cells as well. Repairing damaged cells. All this stuff. You do balanced diet and you see all the uses of proteins. Now what we'll be saying is, plants do not absorb ammonium compounds. Okay, plants have to absorb them because they should absorb these compounds and take the nitrogen. But they can't. You can't force it. They can't do it efficiently. So guess what, man? Let me write efficiently. Okay, let me write here. So another group of bacteria must help. And it does help. And okay, I want you to write, let me write, say, these bacteria perform, how do I spell perform? Perform nitrification. Yeah, I think that's the spelling. Nitrification. Perform what? I want to make sure I don't write any wrong. Perform nitrification, okay? And write in brackets to say conversion of ammonium compounds into nitrates. Okay? Okay? These bacteria, all right, this is done by nitrifying bacteria. So nitrifying bacteria will just come and convert ammonium compounds into nitrates. So write to say ammonium compounds to nitrates by nitrifying bacteria. By nitrifying bacteria. Okay? Now you say, as nitrates, the nitrogen is finally in the form that plants need. In the form that plants need. You're right to say the nitrates are absorbed by plants. We never said animals. Hey, by plants. Okay? Nitrates are absorbed by plants. Let me say from the soil, of course, because all this happened in the soil. From the soil. Okay? Are we together? The plants use the nitrates to form amino acids and proteins. Plants use nitrates to form amino acids and proteins, which is practically the same thing. Are we together? Now, I want you to then skip a line and say animals eat plants. You are explaining the nitrogen cycle very well. Now, we went to plants. We saw that it started as nitrogen in the atmosphere. There we go. It was converted into ammonium compounds. There we go. It was converted to nitrates. There we go. In the plants, it has been converted to amino acids and proteins. Now it's going into animals. So the stages are coming out very well. Animals eat plants. So nitrogen moves from plant proteins into animal proteins. Okay? Predators then eat other animals, and the nitrogen keeps moving through food chains. Okay, we're almost done. So again, we have seen that nitrogen can actually move through feeding relationships. And that is why you do this chapter. You do nitrogen cycle in this chapter. Carbon, we saw that it can move through feeding relationships. How? It goes from carbon dioxide in the atmosphere into plants as carbohydrates. Then in those plants, the plants are fed by animals. Animals eat those plants, and the carbon moves into animals, right? The animals and the plants die, then the decomposers come and feed. And it's moving, carbon is moving through feeding. So it moves through feeding relationships. And this also happens to nitrogen. Nitrogen moves through feeding relationships as well. Feeding relationships. Are we together? Are we together? Now, we're about to complete the nitrogen cycle. 3 more things, which is the death. When plants and animals die, what then happens? Then when they pass out feces, what happens? And then what is denitrification? And we're done. So now just right here to say, we're done. Then we're done with the 2 cycles, which is big. This is very big. We're done. We'll be done with this chapter just now. And we'll move on to the next. I'm going to give you questions. Right? Right here to say, animals produce urine and feces. These 2 contain I'm so sorry, okay? I know that it's very boring when you do one subject for a long time. We're just close to finishing it. That's why I've done it, but I won't always do it. Okay, I'll fix it. I'm sorry for that. Okay, guys. I'll cover for the lost cam. Do you forgive me? Guys? These two contain nitrogen compounds. Urine and feces have nitrogen. And I want you to now say, the nitrogen will be returned to the soil. Okay? The nitrogen will be returned to the soil after they are passed out. You pass out urine and feces, what happens? It goes into the soil, and the nitrogen in urine and feces will go back into the soil. Oh, really? Yeah. There we have it in the cycle. Here. Decomposition, and you can say passing out waste. Okay, back into the soil. Now, let's finish it up. And it will be ammonium compounds, which is your amino acids and stuff. Then it can be converted to nitrates. Now let's write another one. Plants and animals die. This one is an obvious one. Plants and animals will always die. All the time. Now, their bodies, just like for carbon, their bodies contain protein. Now, decomposers, which is bacteria and fungi mostly, decomposers, I want you to say bacteria and fungi, break down these decomposers, break down these proteins that are in the bodies of animals and plants to produce, we know what they produce, they don't produce nitrates, to produce ammonium compounds, which we still will need nitrifying bacteria to then convert to nitrates. But this happens to produce ammonium compounds in the process. Ammonium compounds in the soil. And I want you to say this, sometimes you find it as ammonification. If you want to give it a name, it will be ammonification. And you'll be done. Have you seen it? Now, last thing, and you are done. Denitrification. The final major step. I want you to say denitrifying bacteria. This is the last type of bacteria. Denitrifying bacteria convert nitrates to nitrogen gas. Why? Why would that happen? That's not good. Yeah. This is not good. But it just completes your cycle, but it's not something that we like. But the good thing about it is when you have what we call in bio, we did anaerobic respiration. When you have, let's say, very, very low oxygen, then this is when you're going to have this happens. So let's just say you have soil which is poorly aerated. That's why you see people go and loosen the soil, loosen up the soil. Good farmers, they do it. Because let's say your soil is waterlogged or it's not aerated, then you're going to have low oxygen and you're going to have this process happen. And it's a very bad process because denitrification is like we are losing the nitrates in the soil, and that means the soil is no longer fertile. If we are saying as farmers that soil is fertile, it means there are a lot of nitrates, so the plants will do very well. It's good for plant growth, right? Because plants need nitrates. We just saw that right now. So they can't take nitrogen from anything else, and they need nitrogen so much. So remember that denitrification, denitrifying bacteria convert nitrates to gas, okay, to nitrogen gas. So you can say this sends nitrogen back into the atmosphere, okay, and completes the cycle. But it's bad. It's a bad thing. And completes the cycle. I want you to know that this is a bad thing. So, right to say, denitrification reduces soil fertility. Denitrification reduces soil fertility. We don't want it. It's a bad thing. It reduces soil fertility. Why? In brackets say, because nitrates are removed. They are converted back to nitrogen gas in the atmosphere, are removed from the soil. So it reduces soil fertility. And I want you to write here to say, this is bad, because people think it's good a lot of times. This is not a good, oh, so we need to complete the cycle. No, we don't need to complete the cycle. We're just telling you so that you know that the cycle gets completed. Yes, the cycle gets completed. But we don't want this to happen. Okay? We have to reduce this as much as we can. We just want to take nitrogen from the atmosphere. Isn't the atmosphere already has a lot? So why should we be concerned about putting nitrogen back into the atmosphere? 78% of the atmosphere is nitrogen. There's a lot of it already. What we want is to put it into the soil, and to put it into the soil as nitrates. That's what we need. We need fertile soil. So this is bad for plant growth. I have to make sure everybody knows that. This is bad for plant growth. Are we together? When you do nutrition in plants, photosynthesis, you get to this part where you now talk about these two nutrients, nitrates. We talk about nitrates, and you see how they are so important. Then you talk about phosphates. Are you done? Can I write the last thing? Let me write the last thing to say, denitrifying these bad bacteria, these denitrifying bacteria work best in low oxygen conditions. If you have low oxygen conditions, then hey, you're in trouble. Let's put the low oxygen conditions. Waterlogged soil, that's one. Waterlogged soil and poorly aerated soil. This increases denitrification. Now, is there anyone who has a question on this? Is there anyone who has a question? Students? Wandepa, do you have a question? Matipa, do you have a question? No question? Have you seen everything? This? Were you seeing this Did you write everything? Make sure you have everything here. Well done. Okay. I'm happy with this. Um mm, Let me see if I can close this off. Mm. What do you think? Should we put the few lines on population? It's not a lot, okay? Should we do it? Population and its 4 phases. Let me think about it. Mm, mm. Okay, it's fine. I'm happy with this. Let me allow you guys to submit this because this is just a few lines I'll do on population, and I need a clear mind, and we'll be done with this chapter. So I'm proud. Let me just share with you the syllabus and show you what we have done so that you understand what you're doing. That's very important to me. Let me do this. Share with you the syllabus. Let me share with you the syllabus so that I show you. Wait. Mm. Right. Okay. So if I show you, look at this, everybody, so you can see this. If I scroll down to chapter 19, you see that you needed to know food chains and food webs. You needed to know nutrient cycles, which we've done, nitrogen fixation, production of amino acids, blah, 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 deamination, denitrification. And then you need to come to this last part, populations. It's just a few definitions and the 4 stages. This one, lag, exponential, and death phases. Lag, exponential, stationary, and death phases of population. I'll tell you what it is. A lot of this is describe what is meant by, describe, and state the factors that affect the rate of population growth. This is a small thing. Then now we are doing chapter 20. Can you see? Which is human influences on ecosystems. Are you saying it, students? And then you do the last chapter, biotechnology and genetic modification. Can you see this? If I open it here, do I have it? I'm happy. I'm happy with the chapter 19. We know that that's the one we have done, and we are done with it. And we can go back to the others and see how it goes. But yes, chapter 19, good job. And we know that if you go to it, the the sections that we needed to know, we've covered them. Right? Now, before I dismiss you, wait, one more thing that I want to make all of you aware of. Here's our chapter 19, and let me share my screen like this. Yes, from the tab, this is what I'm showing to say. You have done chapter 19, energy flow, food chain and food webs, nutrient cycles. Anita, is it true? Have you done this? What's left is population, right? Okay, then now you do 20 and 21. Right. Okay, we'll be back to finish our thing. I wanted to do my physics chapters. I'll get time. I'll find what I'll do. Now let me say this, my friends. You know, so there is something that I want you to let me stop the live.